Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm, according to this, a minute early. Sorry, folks. Go figure. Doesn't matter. I'm Kath Armstrong from the Cheapskates Club, and I'm so glad that we already have 22 people watching tonight. Shows that there is an interest in being prepared, folks. Be still my beating heart. Okay, so just some housekeeping. The hand and voice that you may see or hear over to my left is Hannah. Some of you know Hannah from previous shows. Some of you met her in person. Hannah is our moderator tonight, and she'll be looking after your comments in the live chat. Now, if you'd like to join the live chat, you'll need to be logged into your YouTube account or your Gmail account. That's a YouTube thing, not a me thing. I have no control over that. Otherwise, just put questions or comments in the comments underneath me. I'm sure you'll have questions during the show. In fact, I'm sure some of you have already got questions. So if you could please type them in all capital letters so they stand out. Hannah will do her best to capture them, and I'll do my best to answer them towards the end of the show. The comments scroll by really quickly, especially if there's a few people chatting at once. So it's really hard to pick questions if they don't stand out. Okay, now housekeeping's over. I think you've all got that. Let's get started. Now is not the time to stop stockpiling, folks. Don't become complacent. I'm watching the people around me, especially now that lockdown has been lifted here in Melbourne, and I'm just shaking my head in confusion. It baffles me. People have become complacent. In just a couple of weeks since lockdown's lifted, they've forgotten the need to build pantries. They've forgotten the shortages that we had going on. They've forgotten how to keep their pantries stocked. They've forgotten to keep on learning about self-reliance and practicing it. They've forgotten to build their skills in homemaking, gardening, cleaning, cooking, sewing, knitting, crocheting, preserving, budgeting, even basic mechanical skills. Can you check your radiator fluids, steering fluid? Do you know how to change a tyre, or do you have to get someone to do that for you? Can you change the blades on your windscreen wipers? And they've stopped learning basic home maintenance skills too. Now, I know it's hot. I know it's December. I know that everyone is still a little shell-shocked after the autumn we had, the winter we had, the spring we've come through. And I know it's almost Christmas, and some of you are thinking about actually taking a break, having a holiday, putting your feet up. So, you know, that's all well and good, but now is not the time to stop building your pantries. In fact, right now is the perfect time to be building your pantries. Don't become complacent. Don't stop watching the world around you. Don't take my word for it. I read and listen and watch all sorts of things every day so that I know what's going on, not just in my hometown and not just in my state or my country, but the world. I want to know because I like to be prepared. I'm not a fan of surprises, folks. I like to be prepared. So I'll say it again. Don't stop building your pantries. 2020 is almost over. Thank goodness, some of you say. But I think the effects of this year will linger for a long, long time. I know that I can speak for here in Victoria, unemployment is still high. There are still food shortages. And yes, there are. Next time you're at the supermarket, you pay close attention to what's on the shelves and what isn't on the shelves. What brands you can get, what brands you can't get. What basic staples you would normally not even think about that aren't there anymore. Look at how things have been rearranged in your supermarket, spread out, how you might have to find toilet paper in the sauce aisle. They're filling in the gaps, folks, because there are lots of gaps still. You've probably noticed the increase in prices too. And that's across the board. Prices have gone up. Look, I don't have some magic crystal ball. I don't look into the future. I don't know what the rest of summer or the coming winter is going to bring to us. But if we're prepared, if we've been wise enough to build our pantries now, then it won't matter. Lockdowns can happen. We'll be okay. What else? We'll be able to eat. We'll have the meds we need. We'll be able to keep our homes clean. The garden will be okay because we've prepared extra seeds. And they're great for us to grow our own food, but seeds are always handy to barter and swap too. Complacency isn't our problem. We don't have blinders or blinkers on. We are preparers and we are using our time to prepare. So I would suggest that you take this summer season to build your pantries, to restock, to get ahead. And summer is the perfect time to do this. Most of us have some time off over summer, so we can fill it in with pantry building. But fruits and vegetables are plentiful and usually cheap. Look, you can often find them for free if you keep your eyes open. I was driving down our street a couple of weeks ago and there were lemons on the footpath, free to be taken. So I did. I stopped and I took some. I left some, went off, did whatever I had to do. When I came back, they were still there, so I stopped and took the rest. Obviously, nobody else recognised the value of free food, folks. So I juiced some and froze the juice. I made lemon butter with some. I zested the peels and the zest is in the freezer. There is no reason to knock back free food. Absolutely no reason. Think of it as a blessing and accept it and make use of it to benefit yourself and your family. It'll help your grocery budget because you won't need to buy something because you've got that free food. It will build your pantry. It might even teach you a new skill. The other thing that you can do to build your pantry is that we should be doing constantly, and lots of us are without even realising it, is bartering. Now, someone with a lemon tree, offer them a jar or two of lemon butter for a bucket of lemons, or a jar of pickles for a bag of zucchinis and capsicums, or if they've got fruit trees, maybe a jar of jam for a bowl of peaches or nectarines or plums. Barter and trade. You'll save money and you'll be building your pantry. Watch your markets and greengrocers for very cheap produce, then preserve it. Now, if you go to markets, and here in Melbourne, we've got Dandenong Market, we've got Queen Vic, Preston Market, are the three that spring to mind as in regular, proper markets for me. Go close to closing time if you can. And buy by the case. Buy your tomatoes by the case and make tomato sauce. Buy the bananas by the box and freeze them whole in their skins for banana bread, or make the banana bread or muffins or whatever and freeze them. Dry them. Dice your bananas or slice them and dry them for banana chips. Banana chips are really nice, really tasty, but they're so expensive to buy. Simply dried banana, folks. Easy enough to do. When you can get cheap food like that or free food like that, preserve it. Preserving isn't hard. For a long time, I thought it was because I watched my mum. I grew up watching my mum preserve all summer. She would do tomatoes, she would do peaches, pineapple, apricots, beans, all sorts of things. But it was a marathon effort. And I don't know why she did it that way, but she did. But preserving isn't hard. I've realised that if you get just a small batch of fruit, 500 grams, you can turn it into a small batch of jam. And I often do that because, you know, I can do a small batch of jam while I'm cooking tea. Takes about the same amount of time. I'm in the kitchen anyway. So there you go. And it's not hard to make that jam or that marmalade, especially if you do the microwave method. Or you can puree that fruit and dehydrate it for a fruit leather, or stew it and freeze it or bottle it for pies later in the year. Preserving doesn't mean that you need to have kilos and kilos and boxes of produce and spend hours and hours slaving in a hot kitchen over a stove with boilers and all sorts of things. You can do it that way if you want to, but personally, I like my way of doing it. Small batch, do it. Get it over and done with. Yes, it might mean that I'm doing 3 or 4 batches a week, but that only take maybe 5-10 minutes in prep time, and then the rest is cooking and sealing time. It's easy. It doesn't take that much effort. You know, the other day, or last week actually it was, our local fruit shop had some good specials. So I was able to get 4 bunches of celery. They were $1 each. It took about 20 minutes to slice those 4 bunches and get them into the dehydrator. Now I have a whole jar of celery ready for winter. It's sliced, so it will go into soups, it can go into casseroles, it can go into stews, I can put it into pie filling. Anything I would normally use celery in, I've got that there, 4 bunches worth. Once it was in the dehydrator, it's set and forget. I did not have to worry about it. So it took 20 minutes to do that. Was it worth it? Yes, I think it was, because come winter, celery is usually very expensive. I don't grow celery because it's slow and it takes a lot of water. So it's easier to buy it, especially when it's cheap. Okay. I had 3 bags of carrots, 3 kilos of carrots. I did the same thing. Now, I didn't even peel them. I just sliced them and put them in the dehydrator. Same deal, didn't take long at all. I actually used the mandolin to slice the carrots, so it took about 5 minutes to do the 3 kilos of carrots and get them into the dehydrator. And now they're ready for the soups and stews and casseroles and sauces for winter too. All done. They were cheap as well. The other thing I got was zucchinis for 50 cents a kilo. Could not pass it up. We have zucchini growing in the garden, but they're not quite ready yet. But 50 cents a kilo, I bought half a dozen. It came to about $1.60 or something. It wasn't, no, 60 cents it must have come to. It was very little anyway for what I did. And that became zucchini pickles. And then they had what I call sauce tomatoes. They called them gourmet tomatoes. But to me, they were just sauce tomatoes, just a little bit overripe, for 58 cents a kilo, 78 cents a kilo. So I bought some of those and they became tomato relish because the tomatoes in the garden aren't ready yet. Take advantage when you can, but small batches. I did that over a few days. Didn't take long at all. It wasn't hard and it wasn't stressful and I wasn't slaving for hours in a hot kitchen. Be mindful of the opportunities that come your way to build your pantry, because sometimes it's so out of left field that we don't even think about it. We can't, it's so far beyond our normal that It doesn't even strike us as an opportunity. So be mindful of those things. When you're out for your walk in the morning or the afternoon, if you see fruit on trees and it's hanging over the footpath, knock on the door and ask if you can have it. Technically, if it's hanging over the footpath, you're allowed to take it, but it's polite to ask. Right? Another small batch thing that you can do. And if it's fruit that goes into the fruit bowl, it's fruit you don't have to buy for lunches. Okay. When you do things like that in small batches, you're saving waste as well. You're less inclined to put things in the fridge and wait until you have a whole lot, so that what went in first is now all furry and irky. So do them in smaller batches. Yeah, saves so much time. This summer, when you're building your pantry, don't forget the things that you need to buy too. Are there gaps in your pantry at the moment? There's some gaps in ours that we're madly filling. For instance, do you have enough yeast? If you don't have enough yeast to last you a year, add it to your shopping list and buy it now. Yeast was very hard to get this past winter. Put it in the freezer if you're worried you won't use it in the next few months, but it should be fine. Dried fruits. If your dried fruits are running low, now is the time to replenish them. Aldi still have the 1 kilo packs of mixed dried fruit for $4.99. That is a great price. They have been $4.99 for the last 4 years. Every year I expect them to have gone up. Still $4.99. Still great value. Now I try and get at least 12 packs of that fruit during December. And that's enough to make 1 fruit cake a month during the year. Wayne likes fruit cake. I like fruit cake. So if we can do 1 fruit cake a month during the year, it's good. If I have some spare cash left in the grocery budget, I might add some more for puddings too. But if I can get my 12, I'll be really happy. The pantry will be restocked. And in winter, I won't need to go out to get it anyway. So another thing, tin soups. Now I keep tomato and cream of chicken or celery or mushroom or a combination thereof in the pantry. On my yearly shopping list, I have 8 trays of tomato soup. They come in trays of 12. And 12 trays of chicken or celery or mushroom, because they come in trays of 6. That's enough for us for a year. I use tomato soup in my spag bowl sauce, and I use the chicken soup in chicken casserole, tuna surprise, that sort of thing. Sometimes in a chicken pot pie filling that I make too. Now, the question was asked last week, was I looking forward and getting excited to the end of the year to do my yearly shop? Well, in case you missed it, this has been a bit of a weird year, especially here in Victoria, especially here in Melbourne. And we were locked down for so long and had all sorts of things thrown at us, and there was stuff missing from the supermarket, and there were gaps in the butcher store, and beans and rice were hard to get, and yeast was almost impossible to find. Some herbs and spices were difficult to get. Some of your basic flours were hard to get. Pasta, all those staples that I buy huge quantities of once a year were really hard to get. So I haven't been planning on doing one big yearly shop. For the last 6-7 weeks, I've actually been slowly rebuilding and restocking as I've been able to get what I need, because some of the things are still missing. So I haven't been able to get baked beans. I still can't get baked beans. Well, not the baked beans we like anyway. So baked beans are still on my shopping list. Little things like that. Whereas, and I think if I had waited to do between Christmas and New Year, do my one big shop, I would be tearing my hair out at what I wasn't able to get because the gaps wouldn't be filled. So by starting earlier and as I see what we need, getting it, The gaps are being filled quite nicely, and we're almost back up to what we need to do, if that makes sense. I'll still have a good 12-month stockpile. It just won't have been done in one big hit. Excuse me, I'm just going to have, this is Joy's iced coffee recipe too, by the way, or my version of it, because I make it with decaf. Okay. I want to focus on filling the pantry with things that we use all the time that will run out fast in a crisis. And I think that's what we should all be doing. Now, what's normal for me, that what we use all the time might be very different to what you use all the time. So when you say, and I know someone will ask, what do I get? What's on my list? My list may not help you. Make your own list. You know what you use all the time. You know that you use vegetable oil over olive oil. I never use canola oil, so I don't even look for it. I do use olive oil, little things like that. I rarely use margarine. There's only a couple of recipes I have that use margarine. Most of the time it's butter. So having different things on my list, those things that run out, could well be different. So make your own list. You know what you use, and you know that what was hard to get for you during the last 8 months or so. Keep a list. I don't want to scare you, and that's not my intention at all. I want you to be prepared, because I've been watching a lot of what's going on in Europe and the United Kingdom and in the USA and even in South America, and there's a lot of panic buying going on again because people don't prepare. They don't think ahead. So look, I understand that. Right now you might be feeling quite normal. Restrictions are easing. It's, you know, New South Wales I think is pretty much back to just about normal, other than, you know, international travel. Victoria is still a way off, but we're getting there. You know, you might be feeling normal. You might think that your life is almost back to what it was like pre-March, and in a lot of ways it could well be, and that's really good. But just don't become complacent. Just don't think that because the sun's shining and people are forgetting to wear masks and social distance and clean their hands, that everything's okay. Because whether this virus comes back again or not, there are always going to be other disasters that will affect our food security, our pantry security. This year, look, in my lifetime, I don't recall seeing, for anything other than a transport strike, empty supermarket shelves. But there were empty supermarket shelves. We've seen limits on medical supplies, restrictions on over-the-counter medications. You have one packet of paracetamol. Prescription meds were hard to get. In some areas, there are still restrictions on OTC meds, and some prescription meds are still really difficult to get. One that Wayne takes is, they've tried him on a new one and it's not doing the same thing because they can't get the other one. But anyway, so I didn't think we'd ever see that. I walked into our butcher and it was just about empty, just about stripped bare, and the meat that was left was so expensive that, and they were just basic cuts, that I just walked out without buying anything, you know. So that can happen. I didn't think it would ever happen in my lifetime, but it did. Right now, life in Australia is good. Has it changed a bit? Yes. but it doesn't mean that it can't all change again in the blink of an eye. So my advice is, don't be scared, be prepared. Right now, today on the 15th of December 2020, there are hundreds of thousands of Australians trying to survive torrential rain, raging floods, strong winds on the east coast. Some southern states are dealing with fires. They're weather events, and you know what? That's life in Australia. And these things happen on a fairly regular basis. In fact, you're just about right, timetable them in every year. And they are just some of the reasons that we need to keep on preparing. Pandemics are rare, and aren't we grateful for that? But droughts, cyclones, floods, fires, industrial disputes, unemployment. There are so many other events that are disasters as well, and we deal with those on a daily basis in our everyday lives. So don't become complacent. Don't think just because we're out of lockdown that there's nothing else going on that can rip away our food security, our financial security. Take the opportunities that come your way every day to build your pantries and secure your food supply. Make sure your cleaning supplies and your toiletry supplies and your medications are secured. Make sure that you have enough. Build your clothing wardrobe pantry, your gardening pantry, your craft pantry, and yes, your gift pantry, because birthday's still going to come around, Easter's still going to come, wedding anniversaries, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, they're all still going to keep on coming, regardless of what the disaster is. So, whether it's cyclone, tidal wave, what do they call them, tsunami, sudden unemployment, illness, a flood, whatever other emergency happens, if you've prepared now and built your pantries, you'll be able to feed your family. You'll be able to keep your home clean. You'll be able to maintain it. You'll be able to grow some of the food that you need in your garden so that money won't be such an issue. You'll be prepared. And that's not prepping. We're building pantries and we're preparing. To me, a prepper, puts bars on the windows and barbed wire fences and digs tunnels under the floorboards and, all that sort of thing. We don't do that. All we're doing is thinking ahead, planning ahead and preparing. And you know what? If in the next 12 months you don't lose your job, and I pray you don't, or you don't become ill, and I pray you don't, or you don't get hit by a flood or a fire or a cyclone or whatever, and I pray that nobody does, it won't matter. It just means you don't need to shop. You've already done your shopping. You've prepared. So if it's cold and wet and windy or blazing hot, you can stay home in the cool or the warm. You don't need to go out and do battle with everybody else at the shops. You were prepared. Easy. So I'll say it one more time. Whatever you do, don't become complacent. Don't stop preparing. Every day do something, some little thing to build your pantries, to prepare for the future. It might just be, instead of buying lunch tomorrow, take that $15 and use it to buy some flour, some sugar, and a packet of dried fruit and add them to your pantry. Something as simple as that. Just do one little thing every day. It could be checking that you have enough jars so that when you get the fruit to make jam, you'll be able to, because you'll have the jars ready. If you don't have enough jars, put the word out amongst your friends, your family, neighbours, colleagues, school mums, although I think school's nearly finished, but you get the idea that you're after jars. And if they give you a whole bundle, offer to pay them for them with a jar of jam. And don't think that that's being cheap, because have you seen the price of jam at the moment? Even in the shops, jam is expensive. Like good homemade jam is really expensive. So don't undervalue what your trade is. Just be prepared, folks. Plan ahead. Take the opportunity we have now while life is good and calm and peaceful to prepare. And then don't stop. Just keep on preparing. It works. It gives you peace of mind. Alrighty. So Flossie Pot, Hannah, sorry, I'm allowed to call you Flossie Pot, am I? Whoops. Are there any questions, my love? Just scroll up. She's got to scroll up. She's looking for questions. If you've got a question, remember capitals, please, folks.
Okay, so Kathy made apricot jam with equal amounts of sugar and fruit with a little lemon juice, but it was a bit runny. Does she need to cook it longer?
Cook it longer. Yep. Do you do the freezer test? If you don't have a jam thermometer to test the temperature, what I do is when I start cooking the fruit, I pop 2 bread and butter plates in the freezer and I leave them there. And when I think that the jam is ready, is set, I take a teaspoon out of the pot, put it on the bread, and take a bread and butter plate out of the freezer, teaspoon out of the pot, straight onto the cold, really cold plate. And if it's set, within about 5 or 6 seconds, if it's set, ready to be taken off the stove, if you tilt the plate, it will barely move. If it is still running, cook it for another couple of minutes and test again. And that's how I test. Some fruits take longer, and it will depend on the ripeness of the fruit too. If the apricots were really ripe or they weren't quite ripe enough, same with strawberries. Everyone seems to have trouble with setting with strawberry jam. They seem to think that they need to use jam setter. I have never used jam setter in my life. But let me clarify. I do use equal amounts of fruit to sugar. That's the traditional jam recipe. 500 grams of raspberries, 500 grams of sugar, half a lemon, juice of half a lemon. That's the traditional way to make jam. Equal amounts of fruit and sugar. When sugar became evil a few years ago, people tried all manner of things to cut down the sugar in their jam. And seriously, folks, make it the way it's supposed to be made. Don't mess with stuff that works. Now, I know that lots of people use powdered stevia and powdered something else in place of sugar to make their jams. If you're going to mess with a recipe like that, you will need to use something else. You'll need to add pectin to it to make it set. Some fruits are naturally low in pectin, but I've always found that if you cook it properly, use equal quantities of fruit and sugar and cook it long enough, you don't actually need the pectin. I've never used it in my life. You can make pectin yourself. It's a bit fiddly though, but it's a good way to use up stuff.
Kerry is having problems with bottom rot on her tomatoes.
Okay, they need calcium. So when you empty a milk bottle, fill it up with water before you squash it to put it in the cycle bin. Fill it up with water and pour that over your tomatoes. Pour it over the tops of the tomatoes. Then you can get some eggshells, dry them. I dry them in the oven. I put them in the oven when I've got the oven on to bake something. So they're dried out. Grind them to a powder, mix that with a bit of water and pour that over them too. Blossom end rot, they need calcium. It's an easy fix for a pretty common problem that everyone seems to get at some stage with their tomatoes. Yeah.
Estelle would like to know, can frozen vegetables be preserved or pickled?
Yes, they can. If you buy frozen green beans, for example, you can dry them. I have to say, though, not a fan of dried green beans. Just saying. But you can pickle them. You can bottle them, pressure can them. Yeah. Ditto, peas, corn, carrots, cauliflower, broccoli, whatever. Now, on that note, cauliflower and broccoli, it's Coles, isn't it, that sells the frozen?
Aldi do it too.
Aldi do it too, okay. Frozen broccoli, frozen corn. I think I might have mentioned this a few weeks ago. Yeah. Really cheap. The Coles brand is very inexpensive. $2 a packet, $2.50 a packet. It's very inexpensive anyway. Really handy to have in the freezer. If you like cauliflower broccoli but can't manage to get through a whole cauliflower or a whole head of broccoli before it starts to go funny, or it's too expensive, because cauliflower's been expensive lately, but then we're coming up to Christmas and it usually is. But the frozen stuff is really good.
Delicious.
Yeah, really, really nice. Okay. That's it? Okay. Still, extra lemon juice will help. I can't see the stone. Fruits bundle the stones, causing a clot and put them the pulp. The seeds contain the pectin. Yep. 500 grams of still. I take it you mean the broccoli and cauliflower. Works out to about, I think it was 500 gram packet. Yeah. It worked out much cheaper. When I bought them, they were much cheaper to buy it like that than the fresh versions. Yeah. All right. Can dehydrated frozen veg? Yes.
The corn on the cob is $2.50 for 1 kilo.
Oh, okay. Corn on the cob. Coles corn on the cob, $2.50 for a kilo packet. It was really nice. It's the little cobbette, the little ones. I used to buy those all the time when the kids were small. One was just enough for them to chew on. And yeah, if you can't get fresh corn.
And the broccoli is $2.50 for 500 grams.
Yes, $2.50 for 500. Cauliflower and broccoli, $2.50 for 500 grams.
Or you can get cauliflower and broccoli, 500 grams for $2.15.
Or you can get a combination of broccoli and cauliflower, 500 gram pack for $2.15. There you go. But it is good. Now, a frozen veg like that is a really good alternative to fresh when it's expensive, obviously. But if you like just a little bit every now and then, so if there's just one of you or two of you, or you're a family with small children and you don't use a whole cauliflower, because even a small whole cauliflower can be a lot to use up before it starts to go mildewed. I like to grow the mini cauliflowers and the mini cabbages because they're enough. One of those is enough for 2 meals for my family. So a big one, a larger one, is almost too much. You have to be able to use it up really quickly or it goes to waste, and we don't want to do that because that's just wasting money. Okay. Now I saw. Is it? Sorry, folks, trying to read the questions. Okay, it's Jane. Yes. Okay. Alrighty. So guys, there you go. Don't become complacent. Keep working on your pantries.
And not just your food pantries.
And not just your food pantries. That's exactly right, Hannah. Just, just keep plugging away at it. Think of the ant, little ants, all summer long. They build their pantries.
Bug's Life.
Bug's Life, yeah, the movie. Hannah was trying to figure out. Little ants, they plow away, and then come winter, they're set. That's what we need to do. We need to think like little ants and look one thing at a time. You don't have to do a massive big shop. You don't need to spend, what did I saw a YouTube thing popped up the other day. Our $5,600 grocery haul from Costco. And I almost choked because for a start, we don't spend that much money for a whole year. And that was for 3 to 6 months. She expected it to last her family. Oh my goodness. We don't do that. And there is no, it's only for a short time, folks. Seriously, once you've built that pantry, you can go back to buying your lunch or having a coffee or whatever it is that you give up, or you find a way to do it, And the easiest way is on half price specials. Have your list. Make sure you know. Keep track of the specials. When they come on half price, you were going to buy one anyway, so buy 2, and that gives you 4. You're still spending the same amount of money as you would have for 2, and you've doubled it. Build your pantry really quickly, really, really quickly when you can do that. But certainly keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, be aware of what's going on around you so that you know. And it doesn't come out of left field then. If you can see, there might be a plum tree in a park somewhere. If the plums are just dropping on the ground, there's nothing stopping you from picking them and using them. It's be aware of what's around you and how you can use it. And you might not necessarily go back to the plums. You might not like plum jam, but if you make plum jam, you can use it to trade for something else that you do like or that you do need. That's easy.
Samantha wants to know, when we make our cleaning products, do we use full strength dishwashing liquid or diluted?
In the Miracle Spray, which is the only one I make with dishwashing liquid in it, it's full strength dishwashing liquid, but it's only 60 mils, 2 tablespoons. So it's not a lot. When I do the dishes, it's diluted, always diluted 50-50 with water. So whether it's Morning Fresh or the Aldi Tandle, which is I'm going more and more back to the Aldi now. It's thicker and cheaper. The bottle has shrunk considerably, but then so is Morning Fresh. So even when Morning Fresh is on half price, it's still more expensive. So depends. If they bring back the rhubarb Morning Fresh, though, I might be tempted to get some because it was nice. But yeah, no, I only use dishwashing liquid in the Miracle Spray, and it's full strength.
Maureen says that she found a cauliflower in her garden today when she was weeding, and they were given 6 loaves of bread and a dozen bread rolls.
Cool. Did you plant the cauliflower, or was it just like a random grown from something, or was it a leftover from winter that you'd forgotten? That's just, I'm trying to figure out how you could just find a cauliflower, although I dug up some potatoes today that I hadn't dug before, so.
It's like pumpkins coming from the compost.
It is like pumpkins coming from the compost, yes. Potatoes will come from compost too.
Colin would like to know more about the 2021 Cheapskates Revolution.
Saving Revolution. Okay, every year, we're going into our 12th year of the Saving Revolution every year. It runs for a whole year. It's not for the faint of heart. You will, if you join us, register and subscribe to the Saving Revolution. It's designed to get you thinking about your relationship with money. It's designed to show you how to manage your money, how to build a budget, how to work that budget and live that budget, and how to save. And all those things might seem pretty straightforward and a bit like, really? Who needs to know? But there's a lot of people that actually don't know how to physically save. Money isn't saved until it's in the bank. You know, you see a sale sign and it says $4.99, save $100. Well, no, you haven't saved $100. You've just not spent $100. That $100 isn't saved until it's in the bank. Then it's saved. Until then, you just haven't spent it. So saving doesn't come naturally to, I don't think saving comes naturally to anyone. You have to learn it, you have to develop it, you have to get into the habit of it. So these are the sorts of things the Saving Revolution will take you through. Now let me see if I can find, sorry guys, here we go. I'll run through some of the things. But even little things like setting up a filing system for your bills and important papers and stuff like that. Lots of people have a drawer, a kitchen drawer or a desk drawer or a bag in the bottom of the wardrobe where they shove all the important papers and the bills, and that's their filing system. And that works really well until you actually need something. So simple filing system. But, you know, we go through setting up your spending plans. I talk about peace of mind accounts and emergency funds, and they are two different things. I try to get you thinking about your finances, whether you are earning enough, whether you need to earn a bit more, whether you're spending too much, whether, you know, little things like that. We talk about stockpiling. Of course, we talk about stockpiling. That is, you know, a big part of my life. And meal planning sort of goes hand in hand with stockpiling and budgeting. I also touch on children and money and teaching kids how to manage money, how to save money, how to spend money, you know, how to give generously without feeling deprived, because, you know, little kids, you know, giving isn't a natural instinct for a little one. So if we need to teach our kids to do these things. So I touch on all those things. If you go to I put the link underneath me here. If you go and click on the link, you'll be able to scroll down the page and you'll see a list of the lessons. There's one each week for 52 weeks. It goes for one whole year. Now, it's in two parts. Well, no, there's not two parts. It's free to join. You don't need to be a Cheapskates Club member to join the Saving Revolution. You will still get your lessons each week. If you are a Cheapskates Club member and join the Saving Revolution, you also have access to the forums and to the other bits and pieces and things. I've been working on this for 12 months, revamping it for 12 months. So there are extra bits and pieces for Cheapskates Club members. But you don't need to be a member to get the lessons. You just need to put in your name and email address, and it starts on the 1st of January. So you'll wake up New Year's Day with your first lesson in your inbox. Straight to work, guys. I'll be cracking that whip, because by the end of the year, I think I'd love everyone to be well on their way to being debt-free and cashed up. We can all laugh together. Did I explain that for you? I hope I did. Okay, Hannah's typing away here. She's answering a question, is she? No? All right. Any more questions, Beth? Lots of people do the Saving Revolution year after year after year, and that's just fine too. It's not an issue at all. keeps them on track, keeps them goal oriented. So no more questions. Beautiful. Okie dokie. Well, in that case, yeah, I shall say good night. We're coming to the end of the year. Things are winding down here, winding up, and then they'll wind down.
Bob says you look good in the pink. I picked it.
Thank you, Barb. Yes, Hannah did pick this colour. She said, oh, that's a nice colour for you, Mum. I went, yeah, okay. It is pretty. So we're winding down, but, you know, even when we're winding down, we can still be building our pantries and doing little bits and pieces to keep preparing. Now. All right. Saving Revolution registration closes 31st of December. That's it. I don't take late registrations for any reason. So if you're interested, click on the link, fill out the form. Don't let procrastination cause you to miss out. A really, really good thing. Okay. Just before I go, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do. Click the subscribe button and hit the bell so that you're notified when we do a video or come to a live show. And thank you for joining us.
Is there a live stream next week?
There won't be a live stream next week. There will be a pre-record next week. Look what I
prepared earlier.
Yes, here's one I prepared earlier. Yes, there will be a show next week. It just won't be live because I will be slightly busy. Okay. If you enjoyed tonight's show, please give us a thumbs up. It made me smile to see we had some thumbs up likes before we even started. Thank you so much, everybody. And lastly, if you know anyone who might be interested in our show or you think might benefit from listening to me waffle on about preparing or anything else, please click the share button and send them a link. The more people that learn how to live debt-free, cashed up and laughing, the better off our economy will be and the happier our society will be. And of course, all these things help our rankings on YouTube, and that really just makes it easier for you to find us. Thank you again for watching us, and good night. See you later. Bye.